Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. And if this is your first time on my channel, hi, I'm Bree. And this channel is basically where I share my tips, tricks, and experiences on my journey into tech and my career basically as a software engineer. So I'm happy to have you here. Today I'm going to be talking about the assumption that you have to have bundles and boatloads of time in order to be able to learn how to code. It is 100% false, and you can learn to code with whatever amount of time you have per day or per week. It's all up to you. So if you're interested in hearing how I integrate coding into my busy life, then keep on watching. If you're putting off learning how to code because of the time commitment and it gives you like a little bit of anxiety to think, oh my gosh, I have to sit there and put in 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day to learn how to code to be effective, I just want to let you know that you don't have to do that, and there are definitely ways that you can learn how to code with as little as 15 minutes a day. It's all about taking the time that you have and making it effective and having a plan in order to achieve your coding goals. So these are strategies that I still use as a software engineer today. It's really important to me to continue practicing and to make sure that I'm learning new things alongside working, because as we know, technology evolves and it grows, and there might be an instance where I have to use a different technology in the future, and I want to make sure that I am ahead of the curve and I'm still learning. So that can be a little bit tricky with working 8-9 hours a day and then tending to, like my normal house duties and then trying to fit coding in on top of it. But these are sort of some of the things that I do in my free time. And also I am teaching my husband how to code, and he's never really coded before, so he's actually using some of these tips too. So I hope that they'll help you. So the first thing I typically do for myself is create a general rough plan. Now, if you're like a really detailed person, this can be a super full plan where you can say exactly like what days, what times you're going to be able to code and give yourself topics to cover during those sessions. But for me, it's something a little bit more like a rough outline. So each week I sit down and say, okay, what do I know that I have to do during the week? And then from there, I can determine how much time a day or for the week I'll be able to set aside for coding. So after I set aside how much time it is, and of course it'll vary per week, naturally some of my weeks have a lot more events or items scheduled than other weeks. But basically what I tend to do is I say, okay, I want to take one topic and I either want to learn it, practice it, review it, or I would like to start building something. That way, when that time comes and I'm able to code, I don't have to sit and waste time trying to figure out, okay, so what am I going to do with this session? How am I going to make this session beneficial? What am I going to do? What am I going to learn? By planning it out and telling yourself what you are scheduled to do, it gives you more of a structure and you're less likely to blow off the time because you know exactly what you have to do and what you'll be achieving. So for instance, if you have maybe 15 minutes a day, something that's very basic when learning how to code is declaring variables. That's something that you can definitely do in a 15-minute block. And what's important is it's something that you can learn, do a little bit of research on, and then play around with. Practicing is really important when learning how to code, but it's definitely important when you have shorter blocks of time. You don't want to do something like just sit and watch a video because you're not actually retaining the knowledge. What you'll find is you can watch like a 30-minute video one day and then the next day watch another 30-minute video, so by the time it comes for you to practice, you might realize you don't remember or you didn't absorb that knowledge like you thought you did. So understand, even though we can still learn how to code for 15 or 30 minutes a day, sometimes that might lengthen the amount of time it takes us to achieve our overarching goal. So for example, you're not going to become a full stack developer if you're starting from scratch, if you're studying and working for about 30 minutes a day. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but just know that all of those steps that you're taking are going to contribute to the overarching goal that you have, but maybe it'll take you a little bit longer to achieve, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So once you've made a plan for yourself and you've determined how much time you can put in per day, whether it's 20 minutes, an hour, if you're learning, it's going to be very beneficial for you to find a source that provides the information in small, attainable chunks that have practice mixed in with them. And like I said a little bit earlier, practice is really, really important to make sure that you're understanding the topics and that you can explain not only what they are, but you can demonstrate that you know how to use it. So some of my favorite resources that provide information in small and easy to digest chunks are FreeCodeCamp, Codecademy, and Team Treehouse. They all give you small bits of information at a time, something small for you to learn. And also they have practice and quizzes or tests that are structured inside of it so that you can immediately learn, see an example, and practice at the same exact time. These interactive coding resources are great, especially for shorter sessions, because you can learn something immediately and then you can practice it immediately and see other examples. So I'm not sponsored by any of these. I've used all three of these to help me learn even now still when I'm researching things as I come across them. So these are just resources that I actually like. So if you're on the go or you're commuting, which I'm not commuting yet, I'm still at home because of the pandemic, and I feel like it'll be like that for a while. But one of my favorite things to do when I was commuting was to listen to audiobooks. And I got on the audiobook train like a while ago, but I had never really listened to coding or programming books because a lot of the books that I had seen have like coding examples in them, so I wasn't really sure how that would translate into an audiobook, but I tried a few and I actually really, really like it. So if you're anything like me, my commute, it consists of like a 30-minute train ride going into the city and then coming back. And during that time, I don't have really, really good cell phone service. So it's really easy and really nice to have these audiobooks, and then I can just like type in my notes if I want to write down anything or if I hear something that I wanted to highlight. I think that audiobooks are really thought-provoking, and for some reason it just like clicks a little bit better with me. I prefer audiobooks over reading because I feel like I get less distracted and I can multitask while I'm listening to an audiobook. So two of the audiobooks that I'm listening to right now are, let me look. I have Algorithms to Live By Brian Christensen and Tom Griffiths, and The Complete Software Developer's Career Guide by John Sonmez, which I absolutely recommend anybody who wants to be a software developer, software engineer, anything. I definitely recommend that you listen to it. He has some great tips for everybody, so people who are in the beginning stages of learning, people who might already be in their career and have a job, and people who have been in their job for maybe a few years and consider themselves a senior developer. I think that there's something that everybody can take from this book. It's a really good read. If your commute allows you to sit down and not have to worry about driving or looking at the road or paying attention or anything like that, there's an app that's called SoloLearn, and it is available on the App Store for Apple and for Android. And basically it's really cool because it allows you to code on the go. It's an app that integrates coding challenges with other users. They have a coding playground so you can code in, I believe, about 10-ish different languages. And they have courses that are already built into their app. So it's basically like a one-stop shop if you're on the go and you need to do something to, get your brain moving. Quickly do it from your phone, from your iPad, from wherever really. Again, I can't help but stress this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you learn or how long you're taking to learn as long as you're practicing it. So one of the other things that I do personally is HackerRanks. I do them a lot because I feel like a lot of employers are using that sort of tool or something that they've created that's very similar for interviews, for internal practicing. I know at my job that's used to measure some of your performance sometimes. So I always like to do a few of those, maybe once or twice a week. Some of them are pretty complicated, so as I get up to the more complex ones, what I tend to do is take one session and I only worry about how I would actually solve the problem. So by doing it this way and removing the coding aspect, I'm working on my critical thinking skills, I'm working on how to think like a programmer, and basically it forces me to come up with a real world solution in words using logic rather than just throwing code on a screen and hoping that it works. So if you've never heard of HackerRank, it is full of algorithm and critical thinking problems, and I definitely recommend that you take a look at this one too. There's a lot of sites that are relatively similar to it, but HackerRank is just the one that I have the most experience with and that I've used the most. HackerRank has a very well-rounded pool of problems, so if you're looking to practice a specific skill, there's more than likely a ton of questions for you to practice that aren't the same, that you more than likely haven't seen before. But there also will be questions that are like really common for you to get asked maybe in something like an interview. So this was a really short video, but those are my tips for learning how to code when you don't really have a lot of time. It doesn't matter how much time you have to set aside for it, as long as you're just taking the time to do it, then I think that that's all that matters, and I'm positive that if you do it, then you'll achieve your goals. But of course, I would like to hear from you. I would love to know what are some of your struggles when you are learning how to program. If you have any comments, just go ahead and leave them below, I guess, in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all in my next video.